listen to Shoot the Defence. It's unbelievable, Jeff.
Hello and welcome to Shoot the Defence Live, brought to you by the FNX Network and My Sportswear. I'm your host Del, and joining me this evening, very short notice, is my good friend David Bardsley. David, how you doing, mate?
How you doing, mate? Very good, thank you. Good to be on.
Excellent. Great to have you back, mate. Great to have you back. You had a good Christmas and New Year?
Yeah, very good, very good. Always quiet, but lots of football over here, so it's been going okay.
That's
been
right.
Going good.
And they've got the schedule for the MLS season, haven't they? Wasn't it released today?
Yeah, you might have caught me unaware on that one because I have. To be honest with you, it's not something that I'd be dying to look at.
Fair enough.
But I guess the schedule will be out sooner or later, and the guys will be back to pre-season. Pretty much now, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, so let's start our show with the sad news of the passing of former Watford, Aston Villa and England manager Graham Taylor. Now, Taylor famously took Watford from the 4th division to runners-up in the old 1st division in the space of 5 years, and a cup final appearance in '84. Now, remarkable. I mean, he's considered Lincoln City's best ever manager. He's held in high regard at Aston Villa and Wolves. Now, David, you knew Graham Taylor. You worked with him when you were quite young. Played for him at England. I know the news has come a bit of a shock to you. It did for most of us. It's very unexpected, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's another one of those incredibly unbelievable moments where you just, nobody expects this kind of, this news to come through about, any kind of person. But, when it's somebody that you respect highly and, did a lot of things for you as a player, then obviously it becomes a bit of a shock. And, I'll be the first to send my best wishes to Rita and the girls. And, Graham was, Graham Taylor's Graham Taylor. I mean, there's only going to be one of them. And he was just a fantastic man all over. Great personality, great, fantastic coach. He'd be dearly missed.
Now, David, I'm sure you've got hundreds of stories about him, but what can you tell us about Taylor, the coach, and the man off the pitch?
Well, I mean, Graham was, to be fair, off the pitch, he was a very quiet person. I mean, anywhere around the ground, once we got on the training ground, it was, pretty much all hands to the pump, really, because, this guy just had a certain way of coaching, and it was kind of a coaching style that I'm not so sure that many modern players would be able to accept because, he liked to say it the way it is, the truth, what he felt about certain circumstances, games, training, the whole thing. And I'm not so sure the modern day player can stand up to that in many ways because, if criticism was needed, he'd give it to you. And, the players that were going to listen and learn were the ones that were going to move on. And, he had a magnificent ability to find young talent. I mean, I was very fortunate to go there in the 83-84 season. And in that group, myself, Lisa Nutt, Steve Terry, Paul Franklin, Neil Price, Richardson, John Barnes of Reasonably Young, Mo Johnston. We had a team that, virtually, there was maybe 4 players that were over the age of 26. And we were all playing in that 1st division. And obviously we made it to Wembley that year. And, with the great help of people like, Tom Wally, Steve Harrison, John Ward, Graham had a magnificent team around him. And, he certainly knew how to bring through the young players. And playing in the equivalent of the Premier League, of course, the 1st division, it just changed its name. So, so many young players that he was able to bring through. You don't see that in this generation. So many young players playing in the first team. But he trusted in it. He had a way to make it work, and he was fantastic at what he did. And I think that a lot of managers were incredibly jealous maybe the word. Might not be the word, but, of how he made it from the 4th division to the 1st division, is an incredible accomplishment.
I agree.
Because he's, so not many people have done that. I know, obviously Dave Bassett did it, and obviously Dave came to take over, and Graham moved on to his rightful move to, I wouldn't say a bigger club, but a different challenge in Aston Villa. And, so it's just a sad loss for everybody, and there's still a lot of people around Watford. Luther will be over there, John Barnes, there's a lot of these people are still floating around, and it's just a terrible loss, not just for people at Watford, but for the game.
Yeah, I agree. Now, we've got a gentleman called Mark Meredith who often comes on the show. He's coaching in America at the moment. He used to coach at Birmingham City and Leicester City, and he says, I had the pleasure of working with Graham at some of the grassroots show we did where he was an ambassador, a true gentleman and one of football's real men. It's so sad we're talking about his passing in the same breath, having to talk about footballers who have no commitment and just want money.
Well, listen, when Graham got some players, like I said with the youth situation, before Graham got hold of these players, Graham had one of the best youth people around in probably England, in Tom Wally. And, let's put it like this. If you didn't do it for Tom, you wouldn't get anywhere near Graham. Let's put it like that. And I think that, the magnificent understanding that, Steve Harris and John Ward, Tom had with the younger players, every time one of them, was given the nod, Graham Taylor wouldn't look back because he would trust in the people that he employed to bring through these players. And, 99% out of 100, that most of the young players that came through did really, really well. I mean, the FA Cup final, I think it was the youngest back four in history. I think the oldest player was 21 maybe. So, it's an interesting time, the 80s, went on some fantastic... I mean, I was able to do so many things, when I left Blackpool and, went to Watford and saw a totally different agenda of really what football was all about, got taken on, tours to China, Thailand, pre-season in Sweden and all these different, and obviously nowadays, and then later in my career, those kind of things become normality. But when you're so young and you get taken on these things, let alone with, Elton being the chairman, Elton John, to be around these people and you're like 18 years of age is like, it's just kind of like, you're not really sure which way to look. But Graham was incredibly, a giving person, an honest person, a fair person. And, I just would have liked to have seen more commitment from the people that were around him when he, got that big job for England.
You mentioned England, Bards. I mean, he took a lot of stick from the English media during and after his tenure as a manager. I mean, some journalists went too far as well. I mean, he didn't seem to recover from that stint, did he? Well,
I was fortunate, to get those opportunities when he was in charge. And, for me, it didn't really matter who was in charge. I was just very, very happy to get the opportunity. Unfortunately, I got injured straight away and all bits and pieces. But, then we went to Poland and we drew 1-1 in a game. And, this was the crunch time to make it through to the Euros, I think. It was the Euros, I'm pretty sure. It might have been the World Cup, actually. But lost to Norway, and Graham played this formation that just didn't suit the team. And, brought back Liebigson, Lee Sharp played, and we got hammered in Norway, and it was like not good for Graham. And obviously the press went overboard, on the week ahead, and you just don't want to see that. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're doing good or bad, but in many ways, everybody knows what the press is like in England as far as football goes. I mean, you have to be successful, or you're gonna take a can somewhere down the line. And especially with the England manager's position, you obviously, everybody knows what happened to Graham and some of the ridiculous stories that came out in the papers and the pictures, stuff like that. It's not good for anybody's family. But, it's just the stupidness in football that comes out sometimes.
Yeah. The thing is, David, his personality was infectious, wasn't it? I know I'm reading the tribute, seeing what people are saying about him. And, as a modern-day coach, I mean, these days, coaches look at the past and they look at old coaches and whatnot and try to emulate them. But when you look at Graham Taylor, he would be perfect in this day and age, wouldn't he? In terms of his attitude, the kind of swagger that he had about him, and obviously he could take a joke and he could give as good as he got. I mean, the media would love him these days now, wouldn't they?
I think that is exactly it. There was a few Mickey takers when I was at Watford. I guess I was one of them as well, and went like that through my entire career. But you might say something to Graham on the side. He'd hear every single thing, yeah. And he would give as good as he got back. In terms of a fun agenda. And it was great to have those kind of, those moments where you felt you could, pretty much say certain things to your manager, and you knew that he wasn't going to be cross about it, and he would give you worse back probably than you gave him. So, for me, that's how I really learned about the next level. Obviously there was a sense there that if you didn't do it on the training field and you didn't do it in the game, then you got Tom Wally to answer to, Steve Harrison, and those guys. Let me put it like this: without talking about certain things, they knew how to get the best out of you, and if you can take that, then you've got a good chance of making the next level. And I think I do believe that many modern players would not be able to handle those kind of things.
That's right. So. In other news, Slaven Bilic, he shocked West Ham fans today by saying Dimitri Payet doesn't want to play for the club again, but they won't be selling him. David, I mean, this is the player who West Ham put on the map, ultimately. I mean, granted, he had a decent season at Marseille before he left, but it was Bilic that gave him the chance in England, mate. I mean, this led to a call-up for the French Euro 2016 squad. I mean, some way to say thank you to the manager, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the Euros, I guess they went pretty well for him in terms of, a couple of goals, some reasonable performances. And one would argue that, he was playing with a lot of incredibly good players and the country were on a roll, and obviously the inevitable outcome. But when the season started again, West Ham have been struggling all the way through. And when fans see these kind of, what do you want to call them, prima donnas, or, people that feel that they've got to get out just because their agents had a word in their ear or somebody's been on the phone, which is more than likely, of course. But, from a football perspective and a fan, one would argue, yes, he is a great player, there's no doubt about that. I'm not sure that he's showed those talents this year because the team got to pull their socks up, find the form. They haven't been really playing that well. And I just think, when the going gets tough for some of these so-called superstars, then that you see who they really are. If the club need to sell him, that's different. I understand that. But if he's literally asking to leave, you've got to ask questions and say, why do you deserve to leave when you're just as bad as anybody else this season? Which is the truth. I mean, he has not played well this year. You're talking about the odd bit here and the odd bit there. You see Mark Noble in and out of the team a little bit. He's not really playing well. You don't see Mark Noble saying, can I have a transfer now? And he's been there all his life. Because he knows that he's not playing well. And we have to find a moment to find your form again, and hopefully the team will come back together. And I don't think the club should sell him if they don't need to. He needs to, pull his socks up and get in with it like everybody else. And that's the type of thing that Graham Taylor would just say. He'd probably just say, well, you want a transfer? Just laugh at you and walk off. It's like in this day and age, players get really upset with those kind of things. But Graham Taylor would fit in really well now because let alone he's a good man management. He knows how to work with players, and I'm not saying Slaven doesn't, because he's a great manager as well. I just think that, when you're somebody that think that you are something that you're not at this moment in time, don't get me wrong, he's a good player, no doubt about that. Magnificent qualities. But you know what? He owes West Ham a few performances, let alone the fans, lots of performances. And I know people love him there, and that's great, but they're not going to love him when he says he doesn't want to play for the club anymore. So, no, I don't think they should sell him. He should roll his socks up and get on with it.
Yeah, I agree. And Morgan Schneiderlin, well, he's ended his 18-month hell at Manchester United, signing on the dotted line for Everton, and he got about £20-odd million. Now, David, he does seem like a player that the shirt was too heavy for him. Do you think Everton is his level?
Well, I don't necessarily think it's the club that's the problem, United or Everton or whoever it is. Although he came from a magnificent team and a magnificent club, the Premier League isn't the Bundesliga, and vice versa. And I think he's just struggled to play at this level. Mm-hmm. I mean, you'd have to point me out on certain things, but he's not really played that much. It was a surprise when they brought him there, because they've still got really great players there themselves. And if you look at the situation, since Michael Carrick's come back into the team, they virtually won every game.
Yeah.
I mean, so sometimes you can't beat the old school player, and you don't really need to spend that kind of money. But I think if it's, good for the player and good for Manchester United, then the move to Everton might be the thing. But is it the club, or is it the league or the players that he's playing against? Because it's not easy to play in the Premier League. It's, a lot of people get they get found out. And, although lots of people think that they can play in there, it's not as easy as people think it is, just because you come from a magnificent, club previously. It just doesn't work like that.
Exactly.
And he has struggled a little bit, there's no doubt about that.
See, the thing is, I mean, from an Everton perspective, I don't think they've made a bad signing here. You've got to bear in mind is that, are you going to get an international midfielder that's played at a World Cup, that has got Premier League experience for £20 million? It doesn't happen anymore, does it? So, from their perspective, it's a good signing. As a Manchester United fan, I'm glad he's gone. Not saying that he was an awful player. It's just that, he just didn't seem to cut it at the club. From what I heard, his application wasn't there, and even Mourinho's coaching staff weren't too impressed with the way that he conducted himself in training. I mean, this could all be hearsay. Well, obviously, it is all hearsay. But I think at Everton, it's the right club for him. Koeman will give him that freedom. He'll get games. He'll get his chance to get into the French national team again, and it's a good move for everyone all round.
Yeah, I mean, that's the obvious way to look at it, but, you've got to look at their system as well. Everton playing pretty much, 4-2-3-1, and who's he going to leave out? Because, they've got some pretty good midfield players there that have been doing quite well this year. And, the team are only starting to find their form, but the players are not, average players. They're top quality players there. So, yeah, another player to the squad is all good and well, and maybe that will change the attitude at Everton as well, because they've not really been doing that well. And a new player that comes in is only going to press people to do much better, and people should be fighting for the places. I think there's too many things where, people have guaranteed playing positions, and when they don't like it, they ask for a transfer, if that makes sense. We still see that in today's game, but it's all about squads and, resting your players and getting the most out of them at, certain moments in time. So, I hope that move works out for him,
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, Everton are lacking in the central midfield areas. You've got Gareth Barry that's probably going to end his career next couple of seasons. You've got Idrissa Gueye, who's gone to Senegal. Well, he's gone to the African nations with Senegal. So they're a bit, they're a bit shy in midfield. Tom Cleverley's gone to Watford on loan today as well. So I think, again, Schneiderlin's gone in at the right time. I think Koeman will do what he can to get the best out of him. And obviously, I mean, he didn't play under Koeman at Southampton. Or did he? Did he play under Koeman at Southampton? I think he might have done, actually. He might have done.
Yeah.
Not sure, but...
I'm not
sure. But if he...
I mean, that's the thing, with him going in there now, and Tom's gone to, Watford on loan. I mean, they need some players at the moment because of their injuries, but, it's like, Tom's just like riding around at the moment, and that's really disappointing, in my eyes, to see him pretty much going out the door, with Schneiderlin coming in. You've got to play football, of course, so a loan move's good, but, not necessarily good for Tom, because they're pretty much saying, you really haven't done it here either. Which is disappointing, because I think he's not a bad player.
Yeah. We came through with the likes of Danny Welbeck at Man United and was a regular at one point, but I just think, again, is it an attitude thing with Tom Cleverley? I mean, we know he's a good player, but is the Premier League his level, do you think, David?
Application and commitment, I think that was the problem at United. There's a difference between being part of the squad and, when Tom had his chances at Old Trafford, you're talking about replacing some of the best players that have ever played for United, your Scholes, your Keane, when you're going into those positions, you've got to really show something totally, that different. You just can't be the average person. So it didn't work out for him at United, because I'm not saying anybody can replace those players, because I don't think they can. And I don't think anybody's going to replace Michael Carrick either when he goes. And he's still, for me, the best passing player in the Premier League. I don't care what anybody says, but that's my opinion. And, it's just difficult for Tom, disappointing for him, to go from Man United. He's been playing the games at Everton on a regular basis, and now off to Watford on loan. Yeah. So, sometimes that happens with players.
Exactly. And on a final note, let's end it on a happier note, shall we? QPR, your former club, they beat Reading tonight 1-0. Happy? Of course you are.
No, I mean, you have to look at the circumstance, and I think that Reading getting hammered at Man United gave them a bit of a headache. So that was a great moment for QPR to jump right on top of them and to win that game 1-0. Reading are right up there, third place, maybe fourth, maybe not now, but. I'm quietly confident that, QPR will dig in and start to climb the table bit by bit. Ian's knows exactly what he's doing. He's a great personality, great person. And, he will get the best out of those players along with Mark. So, everybody's quietly confident that, we'll start to slowly but steadily, make it out of that problem area. But the issue is, though, that it's so tight down there that if other teams win tomorrow, they've really not moved at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's
very tight on the bottom.
It's progress. It's 3 straight wins three wins on the bounce and 2. I think it's the first back-to-back away situation for the past couple of years, isn't it? Back-to-back away wins.
So if you look back at it, in that perspective, yeah. If you look at the games overall since Ian's come back, 7 lost, 6 losses, a draw, 3 wins. So, the most important thing is to pick up as many points as possible in however, doesn't matter whether, QPR play good or bad, they just need points. And, look at it again once we're safe. And, next season, I'm sure Ian will look to add to his players and get rid of 1 or 2 people and bring in the kind of people that, one would know that Ian would like.
Brilliant. Well, Bards, it's been great having you on the show again, mate. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on at such short notice. And we'll listen out for you on the radio later.
Yeah. I think I've got to wait up till 12:10, I guess. So
that's all right.
You must be scraping the barrel for me.
Don't be silly. It's always a pleasure having you on, mate. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. And guys, we're on Twitter. Follow us at Shoot the Defence. Bards, you're on Twitter as well, aren't you?
Yeah, we're on there. Yeah, the academy's on there.
Brilliant. What's the at
handle? It's either my name or Academy QPR USA.
Brilliant, there you go. I think that's the one actually. Yeah, at Academy QPR USA. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back very soon. Take care.